in less than 3 to 6 months you can do a tremendous level of photorealism textures, something which can go like on a global level, where people will recognize that this is like dope. Alright, so our next topic is 3D rendering technique, and it is about how I render my texture. So all the details you see in my portraits and in my photorealistic tattoos, a lot of people ask me that how exactly I render the details like beard and hair, or if I'm doing a scenic tattoo, how do I render the grass and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna play a pre-recorded video for you. It is because if I do it live, it's gonna take a lot of time. It will take hours. So what I've done is I have pre-recorded the video for you, where I'm gonna fast forward it so that you can get an idea what exactly I'm talking about. I want to talk about the definition of 3-layer rendering technique, and it is right here. It is a 3-step process to build any kind of texture you want in a tattoo, and it is a 3-step process. And the first step is the color fill. So you fill out the colors in black and gray. You fill out the black color everywhere. We are talking about the darkest area in the piece, right? So even if you're doing a color portrait, we are gonna, in that case, we're gonna do the darker areas in color portrait or the color piece. But for this webinar, we are talking about the black and gray photorealism. We're gonna the first step is blocking all the darker areas, anywhere between 80 to 100% blacks. And the next step is you while you do the image reading and you extract the information as I talked about, so you pick up the patterns and the texture, how it is done. So you start putting that. So you do all the texturing. That's the second layer. And third one is the gradients, where you put a overlay over the entire sketch or tattoo you do. Now let's start the video. So this is what I'm doing, if you see. So as I'm working on this area for now, so I'll just focus on that area and then I'll move on to the other areas. What I'm doing is I'm creating a stencil kind of thing which we have in tattoos. So because you make stencils in tattoo and then you follow the stencil, I've just created a stencil out of this one, the area which I'm going to work on. And so the first step is going to start now. I'm going to block all the darker areas. So I've taken a small brush, a Photoshop brush, and pushing full black everywhere. It's a fast forwarded video because if I go slow, I think it took more than 1 hour to finish this. So filling out all the blocks of blacks or the darker areas. So normally your given artwork, you can divide it into highlights, midtones and dark tones, and this is where you block all the dark tones. First step is very crucial because it defines your it defines your overall artwork, and it creates a shape. Now it's the second step I have started with. I've started texturing. So I've picked up the pattern, the way the grass is done. It is just the lines going, with each other. And the area which I'm working on, there are a lot of soft dots and lines. So I've just picked up the pattern while reading the image, and I'm just mimicking the same thing. I'm just it's very simple once you get used to it, and it comes with practice. So that's the second step. You start adding textures. I'm not shading. So the last part is the shading part, the gradient part. So till now I'm just adding the texture, the roughness, the pattern in the given art. Now we do the gradients. That's the last step. And now you will see everything coming to life. So this is where I will add the soft shading, the shadows, the transition from dark to light colors. This is the step which adds depth to your work. The first two layers, they are kind of, I mean, when you work on it, it looks like a 2D stuff. And then when you add the third layer, it starts looking 3D, photorealistic. I think I'm almost done here. You see? It looks crazy. Now, let me show it. So this is all about the video, the rendering. I'm going to show it on the Photoshop now. All right. So as you can see, the artwork, it's complete. Let me just add a small white line here so that you can see the difference. All right. Just to divide it in two. So I have 3 layers here, and I'm going to disable all of them, and again I will show you. So this is the stencil you saw at the beginning, and this is how it looked after the color blocking. This is where I marked all the dark tones, and I got a fair shape, and I got a sense of, you know, how things are flowing, and I can see that this is the right side. What you see is same as the left side. I can see the blocks and the, you know, the shapes. And the next layer is, once you're done with the black, that's texturing. Now till now it looks flat. Even after all the texture and the blacks, it looks incomplete, right? Now most of the artists who have learned few techniques on texturing, they reach to this level and they stop. They they forget, or rather they don't know how to finish it off, I would say. So I've seen a lot of work who do, I mean, there are a few artists who do really good texturing, but it looks incomplete, and it is because they are missing the last layer. Or I can say there are artists who do one of the 3 layers, or one of the, you know, or 2 of the 3 layers, but they don't combine all of it. So the reason I have broken down my texturing technique into 3 layers, so that it is easy for you to understand and you know, work on it. So as soon as I add the 3rd layer, it starts looking complete. It's more 3D. So that's about the texturing. This is the exact same technique which I use in tattoos. It doesn't matter if I'm working on beard or hair, or if I'm working on a, you know, more, you know, textured objects, like if I'm rendering a metal, or if I'm rendering a jacket or a cloth. This is how I go about it. If it is a cloth, I will take it, I'll start with blocking the, you know, darker areas first. Then I will pick up the pattern if it is threaded, or if it has a, you know, a texture of, you know, of stitches and stuff. I'll just capture that first. And the 3rd layer would be adding the shades. Now this gradient layer, the 3rd layer, is very important because it defines the softness and the sharpness in the given work. Now texture is all about sharpness, and in your artwork or the reference which you're using, the light plays a very important role. So that light, the effect of lighting comes when you apply the third layer. So if there is a softness, or if there is a directional light, so light coming from only one source, and so it will create soft gradients on it, and that's gonna happen with the third layer. And when you're working on the skin or the beard, as I mentioned it earlier, when you're working on anything, when you're half the way or when you're in the beginning of 20-30%, it looks bad. So check the screen. So if I say I was doing only this, how does it look? And when you see this as a tattoo, it looks really messy. Then when I add the second layer, it looks like this. And who would expect me doing this kind of work? But it's incomplete. So while you are actually working on it, you have to finish the entire piece, and at the end only you will understand what exactly is going to be. So whenever I'm working on the facial texture, the skin pores or the beard, when I start, it looks bad. In beard, I block out all the black areas first, and then I start adding the texture. So I create the shapes, detailed shapes of the hair, and the last layer, the gradient layer, is where I define that which hair is inside, which is in the shadow area, which is highlighted, which has a block, hard blocked by shadows, and so on and so forth. So the third layer is really important in here. And if I want to just show you how the third layer looks, I'll show you like single layers, like show one layer at a time. So this is how it looks, the blacks. Let's say we'll disable the black and show you the texture. This is how the texture looks. Let's see third one. This is the last layer. I mean, if you see this like a only layer, this is what you're doing. This is kind of a finishing as well. Also remember, when I'm working on the last step, the last layer, which is a gradient, from there I also do back and forth from there. So it's not the final step and then you can't go back to texturing or go back to color fill. The third layer is combines with the finishing part. So while you finish off the gradients or the last layer, you also start adding textures wherever needed. You also start adding the black areas wherever needed. So that is also a final step, or rather I would say a gradient is combined with the finishing touch. And so that's about the texturing. I hope this information was useful, and let me also help you with the practice, that how exactly you can develop this skill. Now this skill, now you understand how it is done, but that doesn't mean that you can do the exact same thing in your next tattoo. So what would that require, where you can actually do this kind of work, or master the texturing, photorealistic textures? And it's not time consuming, it is simple. It just needs discipline, but it is not time consuming. In less than 3 to 6 months, you can do a tremendous level of photorealism textures, something which can go like on a global level, where people will recognize that this is like dope. And if you want to reach that level fast, it's just you have to work every alternate day on drawing. So what you do is every day you pick up some object, something where it has a lot of details, or pick up some photograph from internet. One day you can pick up a portrait, the another day you can pick up an animal portrait, someday you can pick up a scenery and then start a landscape, and you follow these steps. So this technique you have to follow. You'll block the dark areas, do the texture pattern, and then gradients and the finishing of it. And day 1, day 2, or maybe first week or two, it's not going to be very interesting in terms of the output. but you have to stick to the plan. So you're going to do this for next 3 months. Every alternate day, take a small one. So don't push hard as such. I don't want you to fail at doing it every day. Even if you start and if you leave it incomplete in some days, that's okay. But start with something small so that you can finish it in maybe an hour or so. So that will actually help you have that feeling of you have done something, feeling of completion, achievement, and at the same time it will encourage the next or the alternate day, what I'm talking about, to do more. Keep doing it every alternate day for 3 months, and on the last sketch you do on the 3rd month, compare the first day sketch with the one you do after the last one, and you will see a difference of night and day. And by then I'm very sure that your tattoo, the kind of tattoos you do will drastically change, the output. This is simple. It can go on an iPad. You can do it with pencil and paper, pen and paper, anything. Medium doesn't matter much. I use Wacom here, but at home I sketch on paper. When I'm traveling, I sketch on iPad. So just find anything suitable for you. It doesn't have to be a high-tech gadget as such. To start, the best way is take a pencil and paper and start this.